Mini skirt on, dip my body in glitter. Platform sneakers, all the boys want a picture. Two foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya. Mini skirt on, dip my body
Hello,
in
hello,
glitter.
hello. You're now tuned in to the A Little Bit of Law podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, and this week we are talking about Bridgerton Season 3, Part 2. I finished it the other day and I have a lot of thoughts, some good, some bad. It's really giving mixed reviews in my mind with all of the thoughts that I have. And you better believe your girl took notes, okay? Because we're not here to play around when it comes to Shonda Land, all right? So we need to get straight into it because we have a lot of things to discuss. And, I would say overall, I'm not like too happy with part 2, if I'm going to be honest. And, my policy when it comes to this podcast is honesty. I got to be honest. I can't sit up here in front, you know what I'm saying, for the people. Like, that's not me. I got to keep it real. So we need to get into it. But before we do that, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, comment to let me know what was your favorite part about this season, and subscribe. I'm on my road to my first 300 subscribers. So if you're already subscribed, welcome back. Love to see you here again. And if you're not subscribed, if you're the 80% of people who watch and aren't subscribed, what are you doing? Like, come hang with the gang. Click that button, turn those post notifications on so that way you can hang with me every week. Like, it's fun over here. It's a party over here. And of course, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, I see you. I appreciate you. Go ahead and click that follow button on Spotify and Apple so you're staying up to date with all the episodes. Rate that 5 stars and leave a review to let me know what you think about the show. But yes, so when it comes to Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2, the first thing that I have to say was a comment that I kept seeing in a lot of my podcast clips. If you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you go do that at A Little Bit of Lot Podcast, and TikTok at A Little Bit of Lot Podcast. So many people were collectively saying that they think that the Bridgertons are the Kardashians. And I felt like I needed to address this at the beginning of this episode because I have to respectfully disagree with you guys. Okay? I personally don't feel like the Bridgertons are the Kardashians, because I feel like a lot of times people give the Bridgerton family a hard time because they have so much money and they are these esteemed members of the ton. But at the same time, I don't think that the essence of who they are and like their core values and what they stand for give Kardashian, especially when it comes to the head of the household, the lady, the face of the family, Lady Bridgerton. You mean to tell me, and you look me in the eyes if you're watching on YouTube, and tell me that you think that Violet is giving Kris Jenner? I don't think that she's truly giving Kris Jenner in the way where she wants to exploit her children for money, fame, or anything like that. I don't think that she would put her children in any of the compromising positions that Kris has done. No shade, no tea to Kris. I do actually watch the Kardashians. I like the show. But I don't think that Violet is kind of like that. Like, she wants the best for her kids. She wants them to have genuine love, genuine happiness. She pays attention to her children. She knows her children very well. She can shift. I'm sorry, what? Shift? She can sense mood shifts in her kids. And I don't really think that she's giving like boss lady, manager, micromanager, like type of energy, you know what I mean? Like, she doesn't be on her kids like that to be like, oh, like, we only want success, I only want the best for you. Like, she doesn't rule the family with an iron fist, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like she's just more kind and more chill. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, even though like their status in the town may be giving Kardashian vibes because of how popular they are, like, they can't help that. They haven't done anything to like be, oh, we want to be the most popular family. But there's people out here like the Featheringtons, no tea, no shade. That Portia, is that her name? The mom, Lady Featherington, who I feel like should be getting the title of the Kardashians. Like, their mom is the one who constantly does shady things, has constantly showed time and time again that she doesn't actually care about her daughter's thoughts and feelings. She's getting better. Towards the end of season 3, she's getting better. But for the majority of their upbringing, she doesn't really have a true relationship with her children, didn't really have a true relationship with her, husband. Like, she's only really cared about the status, and everything and the money that comes with that and their image. Where I feel like the Bridgertons are just like chill. You know what I mean? Like, they don't need all that rah-rah, even though they happen to be the rah-rah. You know what I mean? Like, they can't help it that they are the it family. They're not striving for that. But there's people like the Featheringtons with Lady Featherington who are trying to be that. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but it's like, in my mind, I just think that the finger should be pointed at people like Lady Featherington rather than the Bridgerton family, because it's not like that with them. Like, they don't try to, do the most like a lot of these other mamas in the town. So I don't know. I just had to address that statement really quickly. But as far as part 2 goes, and if you haven't watched my podcast episode about part 1, make sure you go watch that on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. But with part 1, it was like I had so much hope for the rest of the season because I feel like it started off really strong. But with part 2, I have my notes here, and it's like, first of all, I felt like there were too many other storylines going on for me. I know that there were some mixed reviews that I saw online where some people felt like the storylines was a good thing, but in my personal opinion, I didn't really care for it. So, no offense if you enjoyed that aspect, but I personally didn't. I just feel like, when you have the whole part 1, like, tailored towards Cressida fighting to get Lord Debling, and then you have part 2 and he just disappears, then it's like, what was the point? What was the point of adding all of these storylines and doing the most and making everything about everybody but the main 2 characters, which should be Colin and Penelope, just for the other storylines that you're fleshing out to stop dead in its tracks mid-season? Like, you know what I mean? I feel like that's a prime example of them doing too much. Like, you guys are adding so many other aspects and intricacies to the story, but then you don't even fully flesh it out. So then what was the point of starting all of these different storylines in the first place? You know what I mean? So that really kind of upset me because it's like, you have too much Cressida, in my opinion. Then you have too much of the Mondrich family. At the end of the day, I love the representation with having, a Black family who is shown in a positive light. They're not toxic. The mother and father love each other. They're a strong family unit, and we stand that. But at the same time, it's like, this is supposed to be Penelope and Colin's season. Like, why should I give a frack about the Mondrich family throwing a ball and seeking the queen's approval? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't care. Love y'all down though, but I'm here for Penelope and Colin. Okay, Netflix. And then the biggest problem that I had with this season was, why is it that Penelope is supposed to be the star of season 3 and she's not the diamond of her own season? I guess they try to compensate for that fact by making Colin be the most eligible bachelor of the season, maybe. So instead of making Penelope the diamond, they almost kind of made Colin the quote-unquote diamond bachelor. But we all know how we feel about that. Like, even Penelope called him out in part 2 and basically said the energy that you were giving in the beginning of this season was cap, and that wasn't the real you. So he didn't even really deserve to be the most eligible bachelor because it really wasn't him. Like, it wasn't his true personality. I don't know, guys. Like, it's literally just a freaking mess. Like, that's just how I feel. Like, everything was a mess. And then you have, like, like I said, with Penelope not even being the diamond of her own freaking season, then you have season 1 and 2 where I wrote down that I felt like it was more focused on the main characters. Like, when I think back to my memory of watching season 1, I felt like we got a lot of Daphne and Simon. Season 2, I feel like we did get a lot of Anthony and Kate. And then with season 3, I don't feel that way about Penelope and Colin. And I think that that's like the biggest critique that not only that I feel, but I've seen online, like, period. Like, there just wasn't enough Penelope and Colin for me for it to be Penelope and Colin's season. Why would you choose to make this the season to flesh out all of the other storylines? You could have chose anybody else's season, but you choose the mid-size representation that we deserved, took her shine away, and decided to focus on everybody else. We don't need to see stinking Cressida with her shoulder pads every 3 seconds. I don't feel bad for this girl. She's the op. Like, the whole entire way that they dragged and gagged Cressida's storyline literally pissed me off, because at the end of the day, word to Cardi B, if you beef with me, you beef forever. So I'm sorry, not sorry, that I don't really feel bad for the outcome that Cressida was served. I feel like it's karma, babes. You want to put negative energy out there, you're going to get a negative outcome. So, sucks to suck that you got sent off away to the middle of nowhere. But it's like, maybe you should have been nicer. Maybe the universe would have granted you with a better outcome. So you're continuously shoving Cressida's journey down our throats. Like, I'm supposed to care? Everybody kept saying, oh, I'm like, kind of feel bad for Cressida. And it's like, at the end of the day, I'm not a complete monster. I do have some empathy. But for the most part, it's like, it's hard for me to really feel bad for a bully. At the end of the day, even though I fully know what Cressida has gone through, it's like, well, girl, you shouldn't be mean. So it's like, ugh, like, that whole entire situation just, I feel like, gave me the ick. It's like, it's too much Cressida. What was even the point of Lord Debbling? You drove Lord Debbling so hard in part 1, and in part 2, he's literally gone. Like I said, the Mondrich family, it's just like, what is the point of all of this? And then you have Penelope, where this is supposed to be her season of love and finally getting what she deserves, just to make her suffer pretty much the entire time up until the last 10 minutes. It's like, I don't really feel like I felt too much of an ounce of happiness. Like, all I felt was anxiety and fear along with her. I took on her emotions. It's like, especially when, Eloise was like, I'm gonna give you till midnight. That entire episode had me shaking in my boots, petrified with fear, right along with her. And it's like, this is icky. I come to watch Bridgerton to escape, and all you guys are doing is giving me stress, fear, terror, and putting me through turmoil. Watching Penelope struggle. Like, what the heck? Like, I don't know, guys. It's just, we had a few little cute moments, where when they got married, but even then it was like, were we fully happy? Even the day of the wedding, they were kind of at odds. They were kind of beefing. It's like, I don't know. Okay, but anyways, those are just my initial thoughts, and let's dive into the specifics, okay? Because I have a couple of notes here from different things that I wrote down as I was watching. Number 1, favorite moment that was good was the fact that Colin stood up to Penelope's mom, okay? Colin was pretty much useless as a husband and partner for the entire season, in my personal opinion. But when he ate that one little thing, I was like, that's the least you can do, babes. That's the least you can freaking do, Colin. Make yourself useful by standing up to her mother. It was just so, like, I don't know. I just felt so happy for her in that moment, because she had never had anyone stand up for her in that way. And it was like, honestly, I feel like Colin kind of set her straight because like once he kind of went off on her for the rest of the season, she kind of like got her act together. Wouldn't you think? Like, I'd like to think that Colin was the main reason why Lady Featherington was like, I should, try to be better a bit. Because I swear, after that moment on, things were, their relationship, between Lady Featherington and Penn was getting a little bit better and better and better with every episode. So I really loved that he stood up for her that way. Like, he ate that one little thing. And then, of course, I've talked about this in my part 1 video. Anthony, like, I've said it time and time again, babe. Like, we love his character growth. Anthony has become my favorite Bridgerton brother. Like, he is just such a, like, refreshing, like, take on, what it means to be a husband, like, during that era. Like, the way that he is just loving and obsessed with Kate, like, chef's kiss. But my favorite moment was when they were at that party and he was tweaking and he's like, lilies, forget-me-nots, lilacs, like, like, Anthony is so competitive.
Surely a flower of some kind.
Lilies. Forget me not. Lilacs. No.
Then we had a lot of good moments between like Kate and the family members where we had, those cute moments with Kate and Eloise where she was, showing that she is such a good Viscountess. Like, she's just as good as Lady Bridgerton when it comes to learning and knowing her new siblings, being there for Eloise, paying attention to what type of like snacks and treats that kids like, planning the parties and the events. Like, like Kate is just like, she's just a baddie. Like, we stan. Even the moments where like Colin needed some like marriage advice and she was there for him. Like, Kate is just the best. Like, I really, really, really enjoyed those moments. And another moment that I thought was funny was when Anthony was annoyed with Marcus for talking to Lady Bridgerton. He was like, he oversteps. Like, in that moment alone, I felt like also showed character growth, because if Marcus would have been around in season 1, can you imagine what a living hell Anthony would have continued to make Lady Bridgerton's life? Like, but now he's like, okay, like, I can let my family do what they do and let them, have their moment, and so like the old Anthony kind of peeked through where he was like, like, I don't really know if I like that, like this man being on my mom, but he kept it cute, so we love that. Like, we love that growth for him. And another moment that I thought was like crazy was when Penn and Colin argued in the street. How do you guys feel about that moment? Because I personally was gagged. And like the best part about Penn and Colin's argument in the street was the fact that he was like trying to cut into her and was just like, what the frick are you doing out here? Like, it's not safe. Like, you're not thinking smart. And she clapped back. It was like, well, what the frick are you doing out here? And I was like, wait. And it's like, one thing that I liked about Penelope, I feel like, is that once she secured that relationship with Colin, there was like growth in her character from that point on. Because if you notice that once they like got engaged, Penelope just like stopped taking crap from people, including her own fiance. Like, she was like, no, I'm gonna stand up for myself. And like, no, not even really once they got engaged. I would say Penelope really started turning up when she asked Colin for that kiss in part 1. Once she asked for what she wanted and realized like, oh, like, I can just, speak up, it like things just continue to get progressively and progressively better. I feel like I don't know if like old Penelope would have clapped back at Colin, but the fact that she stood up for herself and was just like, well, what are you doing out here? It was just like, yes, like, that eats. And another moment that I really, really liked was when Queen Charlotte called out the Bridgertons for being Lady Whistledown. Like, that had me shaking in my boots, guys. Like, the fact that she pulled up to the party and said, everybody get out of the room except for the Bridgertons, and I need to know which one of you is Lady Whistledown, was like, what the heck? Like, I was holding my breath. Like, I did not expect her to do that. Like, she was on a mission. And I really thought it was funny how when she said everybody out of the room except for Bridgerton, Lady Danbury was like, ooh. And like, she didn't move. Like, it pays to be the queen's bestie, because she was just like, oh, like, you're not talking to me. Like, I'm not going nowhere. I was like, no, like, Lady Danbury takes me out, dude. Like, she's so funny. Oh, and another moment that I forgot to write down was when I had a clip that was going viral on Instagram where I talked about, you know, Lady Bridgerton messing around and, you know, potentially starting a relationship with Lady Danbury's brother. And I was questioning in part one, like, what was Lady Danbury's problem? And a lot of us in the comments were like wondering, but now we know, like, Lady Danbury was mad at her brother because, if you haven't seen, of course, spoilers if you made it this far, Lady Danbury was upset with her brother because she had almost escaped and ran away before getting married to Lord Danbury, but her brother snitched on her, and she heard her brother thanking, or she heard her dad thanking her brother for, you know, snitching, and she ended up having to get married to Lord Danbury. So she basically blames her brother for ratting her out, and like basically blamed him as the reason why she had to live her life in like turmoil being married to Lord Danbury. And at the end of the day, like, I do love that he was like, hey, like, I was 10. You know, I didn't really know what was going on, but that doesn't make Lady Danbury's feelings any less valid. But I'm really glad that they were able to talk it out, because beef like that, you know, when it comes to siblings, is just not fun. And I'm so happy that they were able to resolve it, and that she was able to kind of let go and forgive, because at the end of the day, like, he was just a kid, even though it was really messed up. But I do understand where she's coming from. Like, we saw in Queen Charlotte how miserable and insufferable, like, Laura Danbury was. It was a chop. So that was pretty interesting that they, you know, at least tied up the loose ends with that part of the storyline, giving us the closure to figure out why Lady Danbury was so upset. But yeah. And I also think that when it came to like Colin and Penelope's wedding night, that really, really made me upset, because the wedding, first of all, was like really, really nice. Penelope looked gorgeous. Penelope looked gorgina, like, ate down. Like, I was really trying not to have any expectations for the wedding look, so I couldn't imagine like what they would make her look like. But I am so happy with like her glam, her hair, like everything was just chef's freaking kiss. The dress, Penelope looked so good on their wedding day. And the fact that Colin didn't want to get on that on the wedding night is really, really, really annoying. Like, you are feeling so upset and so petty boots that you want to sleep on the couch on wedding night. And then what makes me really irritated about him sleeping on the couch for several nights until the end of the season is that it's like, okay, now you guys have moved into your house, you have this new space, and out of every room, you sleep in her room? Like, why are you sleeping on the couch outside of her room? Like, go somewhere else. Like, get the frick out of here if you don't want to be with me and you don't want to be around me and you don't want to be intimate on wedding night. Like, what the heck? I just don't understand that. I saw a couple comments where people were saying like they feel like Colin was conflicted, so he knew he wanted to be close to her, but not like that close. And it's like, I don't care. It's a chop. Colin, you should have went to your room. Like, what does the rest of the house look like? Go somewhere else. Get the frick away. Because that just wasn't cute to me. And then it was so crazy to me. Like, we need to address the whole situation with Benedict, because like, as much as I love Benedict, and he's like probably my second favorite Bridgerton brother, what was going on with Benedict's threesome scene? Like, like, we stand Benedict exploring his sexuality. You know what I'm saying? Like, we live down, love that he's, bi and he's like figuring himself out. I'm never going to be one to hate on that. But why did they feel the need to make the scene so long though? Like, love you, Benedict, but I don't need to see this much of this scene. How was it that this was Penelope and Colin's season, but we saw Benedict get it in longer than we saw Penelope and Colin? Like, the one scene in the beginning where we saw Penelope and Colin get intimate was like over in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, several things were happening, like moving on in the story, while they kept flashing back to Benedict, and he's still getting it in. Like, what? Once again, guys, love that I'm recording and they are cutting the grass. Yay! But yeah, like, I swear it seemed like 3 different things were happening. Like, it almost seemed like it was the next day. Penelope had did something, Colin did something, and then they flash back, and it's the whole next day, it almost seems. And then Benedict is still doing what he's doing. And it was like, why are we gagging this? Like, who made the executive decision to give Benedict's intimate scene a longer camera time than Penelope and Colin? Like, that was so confusing to me. Like I said, we love you, Benedict, but we want to see Penelope and Colin. Like, what is the problem? But at the same time, like I said, I do love him, and I love that Benedict is such a great big brother. And there's so many moments about Benedict that I really love, where like his relationship with his siblings is so strong, where he has like his swing talks with Eloise. I love that they went back to that in part 2 and had like another swing chat between him and Eloise. Anytime that you see like Gregory and Hyacinth, he's always playing around with them, messing around with them and stuff like that. Those are always like really, really cute background moments. Like, he's like the main brother who entertains Hyacinth and Gregory. Love that. And he always like goes out to drinks with like Anthony and Colin. So, we love that for him. But once again, would love to see more Penelope and freaking Colin. And one thing that really, really, really upset me about this season was the fact that Colin really continuously tried it when it came to Penn. Like, this entire whistle down situation was just extremely stressful to watch. And I just hate the way that they made Colin handle the situation, because at the end of the day, I feel like it's almost like they were trying to destroy his character. Like, Colin is supposed to be the most kind, gentle, like understanding brother out of them all. And I feel like they made it to where he was just so upset, so angry. And a lot of the videos that I've watched where people talk about how he is in the books, they say that he like low-key did have anger issues. But at the same time, they did say that he forgave Penelope a lot quicker. So why is it that it took him so long to forgive her in season 3? Like, I'm so confused. Like, he just tried it and tried it and tried it over and over again. And it's like, Colin, come on now. Like, Penelope's always telling you that she loves you because you're kind, you're patient, you're understanding. So where is all this kindness and patience and understanding when it comes to your wife? And then it gagged me because before they got married, he tried to say that she trapped him, but he was the one that initiated being intimate. And I wrote down that Eloise also tried it too, because she tried to say that Penn only befriended her to get close to Colin. And it's like, when they met, weren't they like 6? Girl, wasn't nobody thinking about your brother at that time? Like, we were just kids. Like, y'all are giving Delulu. Like, that really, really, really upset me. And speaking of upsetting me, another thing that pissed me off about this season was Eloise in general. Like, I feel like they were also giving character assassination, because it's like, I understand that Eloise and Colin had to grapple with a lot, dealing with the fact that Penn was Whistledown. But at the same time, I feel like they could have given her so much more grace. And especially Eloise, it's like, not only did you be friends with the ops, like, for pretty much the entire season, it's like, once you found out about Lady Whistledown, you told her that she can't be both a Bridgerton and Whistledown. And I feel like everything that Eloise did with her actions this season, like I said, is character assassination, and the fact that she's supposed to be this feminist, right? She's supposed to be a girl's girl, but none of the energy that she was giving, I'm here for the girls. Because they're not there for your number one girl. Like, this is supposed to be your ride or die, and you've just been like not even trying to understand where she's coming from. Every single thing that you've been upset with her about has been for selfish reasons. I feel like even when she was like upset about learning about Whistledown, she was upset that Colin was gonna get mad at her. It was like, girl, like, you really only care about you. Then you want to turn around and be like, my brother, how long you been liking him? And it's like, girl, you're so stuck in like your own la la land that you can't even see that I like your brother. It's like, this is not giving somebody who cares about being there for the girls. And I saw a TikTok that describes, like, even further my issues with Eloise, and I'm going to insert that here.
Eloise Bridgerton shows the only thing worse than being a millionaire is being a millionaire that pretends they're a feminist. In part 2 of season 3 of Bridgerton, Eloise takes being a rich white feminist to the next step. In part 1, and literally every other season, Eloise criticizes these other girls for having feminine interests such as sewing or knitting or whatnot, and she criticizes them for wanting to get married. That's phase 1 of her rich white feminism. She is failing to recognize the privilege she has to not immediately get married like the rest of these girls because her family is so esteemed, is so canonically rich. She is failing to recognize the privilege she has that she can go out horse riding, she can do all these masculine things because her family doesn't really need her to get married. For someone who reads so much and was really trying to be a revolutionary with the poor in those earlier seasons, she does not understand that these women have to get married to secure security and a life for themselves. They can't just sit around at Bridgerton House all day and read Emma. But now we have part 2 of season 3, where phase 2 of rich white feminism commences. At every single inconvenience, even vaguely having to do with her, Eloise victimizes herself. When the Queen's bounty comes out to find out who Lady Whistledown is, Eloise does not care about protecting Colin. She cares that Colin is going to get mad at her for keeping the secret. She says that verbatim to Penelope. For someone who wants to be such a trailblazer rule breaker, she seems really scared about getting caught for breaking the rules. But what really did it in for me, when I really found out that Eloise does not care for women's rights, she only cares about her own rights, is when she told Penelope she can't be both Lady Whistledown and a Bridgerton. That dual identity is the feminism Eloise has been preaching this entire time. Eloise wants to be both a woman and someone who rides horses, a woman and someone who reads. But when Penelope is actually doing what you say you want to be doing, it's not okay? I know there's much more to Eloise's story, but I really don't think she's going to get the sense knocked into her by Benedict or Colin telling her there's enough love to go around. No, she needs a real feminist to come in here and tell her what's up.
So, I don't know. It's just, Colin was just a mess. Eloise was a mess. And I just really don't think that the writers try to stay true to who they were as characters, and I feel like their problem solving was just so not like them. Like, I feel like realistically, the way that they set their characters up, you would think that they would have like navigated the Whistledown situation with Penn a lot better, but I don't know, that's just my opinion. Another thing that I wrote down that I really loved about this was that I really think that it was brave for Penelope to stand up in front of the Ton and admit to being Lady Whistledown. Like, all she's done is just flex on everybody this entire season by showing continuous bravery, standing up for what she wants, putting herself out there. It's like, girl, at the end of the day, like, women just gotta do everything, huh? If I gotta be the one to put myself out there and say that I'm Lady Whistledown, I'ma just do it. But one thing that I didn't like about that scene at the same time was, as much as I love the fact that she was standing up for herself and putting herself out there and saying, okay, I'm Lady Whistledown, why did Colin leave her standing alone in the circle by herself? Like, that was kind of funky to me. Like, he could have walked out there, held his wife's hand, and let her do this proclamation in front of the Ton and stood by her side, but he just left her alone. But at the same time, I thought about it, and I'm like, if Colin came out there and stood by her side, would that be taking away from her moment and her independence? I don't know. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on that? Should Colin have stood by her side and supported her, or was it better to let her have that moment to shine alone? I don't know. But either way, I'm glad that Penelope figured out the situation and just basically came to the conclusion that it's better if I just come out as Lady Whistledown and let's just get this out in the open, you know? And then one thing that really, really upset me after Penelope admitted that she was Lady Whistledown was that Colin came to her side after, and he basically admitted that he was projecting onto Penn, which was like, yeah, we know. This is not news, Colin. Like, at the end of the day, like, we all know this, but you've taken forever to get around to admitting it, which is like so petty. And he basically is like, I wrote down that he was just giving a hater from the moment that he found out about Whistledown, which, like I said earlier, like, I understand it's a lot to take in at first, but it's like every single time that Penn tried to reason with him after the fact, he refused to give in until the Queen publicly showed her mercy. And it's like, why did it take the Queen to be like, okay, for you to finally come around to supporting your girl? Like, it's just, that was kind of tired to me. Like, how many times does Penelope have to keep begging and pleading for him to hear her out? And then the only time that you come around is when the Queen says it's okay. Like, I don't really like that they wrote it that way. I wish that Colin would have came to be there for her before the Queen. Like, why did it take the Queen to make him realize? Or even like after he talked to Cressida, because that irritated me too when Cressida clocked him and basically was just like, it sounds like you're jealous. And that whole situation like irritated me as well, because it's like, when he went to go talk to Cressida, you know, Penelope was saying, no, it's okay, like, I'll just pay her the money. He's like, oh no, your opinion doesn't matter, like, I'll figure it out, you know, I'm the man, you know, I'm supposed to take care of you, you know, I'll get it done. And then you go and ignore everything that Penelope said, everything that Penelope was trying to tell you, like you've done this entire season. You did never really care about what she has to say. And then you pull up to Cressida's house thinking that you're big and bad and you're going to fix the situation, only to make it worse. Like, what did you really think, Colin? You already know that this woman hates your wife. Why do you think that you, of all people, are going to change her mind? And then on top of that, Cressida was like, just for the fact that you thought you could come up in here, I'm going to make you double it. And you made it 10 times worse. Or I guess I should say 2 times worse. Because now she wants 20,000 pounds rather than the 10 that she was asking for at first. It's like, what? And so after Penelope came out to the Ton and got the Queen's mercy, then he apologized for that too. It's like, like, it's just, I just did not like that. And it's like, I just feel like we could have saved so much turmoil and had so many more happy moments with them if he would have just sat down, like I said, and supported her sooner. I feel like too much time was spent with Colin and Penelope being at odds. Like, and then, you know, when he did have the chat with her after the Queen showed her mercy, he told Penn, yeah, you know, I felt like I was just insecure and, I was jealous. And on top of that, I didn't think that a woman with such bravery could ever love me. And it's like, this sounds like a you problem. This sounds like a you problem, Colin. And I just didn't really, clock you to be the type to hold grudges against the woman that you say you love. Like, that just doesn't feel like Colin to me. Like, my boy basically had an identity crisis until the very end. He wasn't acting like himself in any way, shape, or form. And it's like, what was the point? You basically just undid all the work that we did in season 1 and 2 and just like annihilated his character and his morals and everything that Colin stands for to make him this bitter, angry, jealous man. And he's like, yeah, I thought I was flexing with my writing. I thought I was doing something, but it turns out, you're a writer. Okay. That's nothing to be jealous of. That's just something to be proud of. You should be proud of your girl. Like, I'm so confused. Like, it's just giving red flag after red flag. Like, why would they make that his personality? That's so not him. He's not like that. He doesn't give jealous. Ugh. And then I wrote down that I think that it's ironic that Penn was the one who was walked all over her entire life, disrespected by everyone the entire season, including her husband, just for her to be the one to pay for her sister's ball and save the Featherington family from ruin from the crime accusations that were to come. It's like, what? Why would you make her go? Like, I feel like in the end, I'm happy that Penelope got her happily ever after, right? She got the guy. She got her baby. Her relationship with her sisters got better in the end. Her relationship with her mother got better in the end. She was able to come out as Lady Whistledown and have mercy by the queen. But at what cost? At what cost? Because in the end, yes, everything worked out, but the journey was hell. It was hellish. And I feel like that's not fair. Like, Penelope deserved a little bit of a break, a little bit less of all this hardship that you guys were throwing on her, So, upsetting again. But one thing that I did like was the fact that Lady Bridgerton finally stepped out with her man. I know that's a right. Like, let's talk about how Lady Bridgerton looked beautiful at that last ball in the last episode. Lady Bridgerton stepped out with her gown. She stepped out with her man on her arm. She was dancing. She was twirling. She was serving the house down boots. Like, we love that. It was a coincidence that Anthony and Kate were gone off to India, because I can only imagine Anthony might have actually chose that moment to turn up just a little bit. I'm saying, seeing his mom swinging around, dancing, but I did like that part. And I think that at the end, one thing that gagged me was the fact that Penelope once again came out on top and ended up having the first son. Her sisters gave birth to 2 girls. Penelope gave birth to a boy, Lord Featherington. Like, she can't help it that she's the best. But one thing that did throw me off about this was the fact that they did like their time jump. Like, okay, I would have loved to see Penelope's pregnancy. I would have loved to see them getting prepared for the baby. I would have loved to see the moment that Colin was found out that she was even pregnant. It's like, dang, like, we didn't even know she was pregnant until she popped out with the baby. And then you give us all of this in the last 10 minutes? Like, it felt so rushed. Like, I don't know, dude. It's just, I feel like at the end of the day, if you take anything from this episode about my feelings towards part 2, it's just, I don't know. That's how I feel. Like, as you see from my notes, there were lots of good things I liked, cute little moments, but for the most part, it just felt like it was kind of all over the place. We needed more Colin and Penelope. We didn't deserve to have a majority of the time that Penelope had being engaged, married, and then post-marriage be misery. Like, she deserved a little bit more happiness. And then the happiness that she did get was only in the last 10 minutes. We need to do better. Bridgerton, I'm talking to you, the brand, Shonda, Netflix, whoever is responsible for this. We need to step it up, okay? And like, the fact that you guys are telling me that it's going to take 2 years for us to get season 4 is also pissing me off, because we already waited long enough for this season just for part 2 to be mid. If I'm going to be honest, if they said that I needed to rate part 2 on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a 5. It was like, like part 1 was way better than part 2. And it almost felt like it was like 2 different seasons because of how different they were from each other. I don't even feel like it was even cohesive, like you were better off just releasing everything all at once then. And then it makes me kind of feel bad for the actors, because I'm seeing that allegedly a lot of the Penelope and Colin scenes that they did film were cut out. Not sure how true that is, but what the heck? Like, they're over here doing this press run, working night and day, interview after interview, hyping this show up just for you to do them like this. I'm really interested to see what the actors even feel about this season. What are their thoughts? I mean, I'm sure they probably wouldn't be able to say it out loud anyway, but it's like, girl, like, it's just tired. Like, I just really, really wanted more for these two. So, I don't know, guys. I feel like even thinking about it right now is like putting me in a bad mood. And I hate to come on here and be negative, and I wish I had better things to say. And I feel like a lot of people may disagree with me. I don't know. But like I said, I got to give, the truth, and I have to be honest. And it was just like, So, I don't know. I'm just hoping that, once we do finally get season 4, it'll be a lot better. But it is what it is, So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, comment to let me know, what did you like about the season? What did you not like about the season? Subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify and Apple, like I said, follow the show, rate that 5 stars, leave that review. And of course, you guys can follow me on Instagram at A Little Bit A Lot Podcast and TikTok at A Little Bit A Lot Podcast. And let me know, are there any other shows that you guys want me to talk about? Right now, I'm watching Love Island UK. So far, don't know how I feel about that season either. But depending on how I feel about it, I may or may not make an episode about it. So if you want to hear more about that, be sure to let me know. But yeah, like, love you, Bridgerton. But we could do a little bit better, babes. Kisses. But yeah, with that, I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with y'all. Mini skirt on, take my